What is up, guys? It is Joe. We are back. We're talking ball about the Cats, and in today's video, we're talking about the video game Cats. We're talking about EA Sports disrespecting Kansas State and disrespecting a lot of teams out there with some recent rankings of offensive stuff, defensive stuff, overall team stuff, and the top 25 toughest places to play in college football. I'm going to get into all my thoughts regarding that. Shout out to the commenters for requesting it. We've had a couple of people asking for this specific video, so I wanted to bring that to you today. But before I do, let me tell you this. Guys, a quick reminder, at 3,000 subs, I'm getting the cat script tattoo on my left thigh, specifically the thigh, not my eye. I had some people thinking it was my eyeball. Probably not going to get a tat on the eye until it's kabillions of followers. Probably not going to do that one. But on the left thigh, if you want to see that get done, it's the cat script tattoo. You've all seen it, but I'll toss up a picture. So be sure and hit that subscribe button, as it does help me immensely. And it's a good way for you to get some more K-State videos on your feed as we continue to push through the offseason together. But I'm going to start here. We're going to go numerical order of the days that this was released, starting off with the top 25 toughest place to play. Then I believe it went offensive, defensive, overall. So I'm going to start off with the top 25 thing, because I think that was the best way to start, of where everybody who made this list, everyone involved at EA Sports said, you know, we don't actually watch college football. This team has 100,000 seats. That's a tough place to play. Never been there, but I'm sure it's pretty tough. That was the general consensus of this list. Reading through this, and I'll rapid fire for you real quick. I've got it pulled up over here on the side, so if you see me looking off, that's why. Top 10 rounds out like this. Number 1, Texas A&M's Kyle Field. I'm going to explain why I hate that in a sec. Bryant-Denny Stadium for Alabama. LSU 3, Ohio State 4, Georgia 5, Penn State 6, Wisconsin 7, Oklahoma 8, Florida State 9, Florida 10, and then just to wrap out the rest, I'll get you a quick one here. Oregon at 11, Clemson 12, Tennessee 13, Auburn 14, South Carolina 15, Michigan, Virginia Tech, Utah, the lone Big 12 team Utah, I might add, and we'll talk about that. Utah, Texas at 19, Iowa at 20, Notre Dame at 21, Michigan State 22, Arkansas 23, Boise State 24, and Davis-Wade Stadium for Mississippi State at 25. First things first, what the hell are we doing, folks? What are we doing? No Stillwater, no Ames, no Manhattan, no Morgantown. Have you ever been to a college football game at any of these places? You're telling me Texas Stadium, which is revered for having a ton of people, but a lot of wine and cheese people. It's not necessarily college fans screaming their heads off type people. It's the, hey, go Texas, we like Texas, yeah, good football. They're not the type of people you see in Morgantown. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to see the same energy at one of those places that you will at the Bill. And now let me tell you this. The way they made this list, in case you didn't see it, this is the way they laid it out. Not all home field advantages are created equal. And the game's going to play a big part, and I'm sure at some point I'll talk about that or show it on the channel. The home environment matters in college football's new video game. The development team worked to compile a list of the top 25 toughest places to play, factoring in historical stats such as home winning percentage, home game attendance, active winning streaks, team prestige, and more. So what you're telling me is Texas A&M should not be number 1. What are we doing? Unless you're considering the fact of, hey, this home environment is so tough that even the home team sucks here. That's what we're going to say. That's why they're the hardest. No, what are we doing? I saw App State go into Kyle Field and beat Texas A&M like last season, 2 seasons ago. What are we doing? Now, I know this channel specifically, focused on K-State, and I do want to put on for K-State. Bill Snyder Family Stadium deserves to be here. If you want to talk about selling to capacity, K-State's at like 104 capacity every single year. You've got 54,000 fans screaming their heads off the entire time. It is literally 2 hours away from the toughest NFL stadium to play at in Arrowhead Stadium, and a lot of those fans follow that same route. I'm pissed off that the Bill's not on here, but I'm also pissed off that Stillwater's not here. I'm pissed off that Ames isn't here. Morgantown deserves a spot as well. Like, the fact that I would much rather play at EA Sports' number 1 hardest field to play at in Kyle Field versus play at night in Stillwater probably tells you something. Maybe it's my personal Big 12 bias, but you look at this, I would much rather send my team to go play at Kyle Field versus playing at Penn State or at Oregon. These are places you're not going to win at. I mean, what are we doing? Penn State whiteout game versus Texas A&M any time of the week? A&M was so bad at their home field, they got their head coach fired. So first things first, what the hell is this list? What are we doing? Did we chat GPT this with the prompt of, okay, show me the best teams in college football, but filter out all the teams that aren't Big Ten, SEC, and then give a couple of different ones that we just want to toss in there to spice it up. And it spits back out this list. What are we doing? I mean, that's awful. I get there's been some good moments for Florida. I get there's been some good moments for Wisconsin, Florida State as well, but these teams are the default de facto top 10 in this list. You're saying Oregon is a easier place to play than Wisconsin, or you'd rather play at Oregon than you would in Norman? K-State went in there and beat Oklahoma a couple years ago, and it was a huge game. Adrian Martinez looked awesome. Like, you don't see this list being, widely revered of like, hey, great job, EA, I appreciate it. And it feels like they just dropped the ball. With all of these rankings, like, This is a game that has had so much care, attention to detail, and love from people that watch college football. Each of these lists says we don't watch college football and we don't care about college football. That's the craziest part of this, and we'll talk about that here as we transition. But to start off with this, K-State is absolutely a top 25 toughest place to play. If you want to look at numbers like relative performance on the road versus at home, K-State's top 5 in the nation. If you want to look at the spread, home versus away for sports betting odds, it's a great way to look at it. How much does your team benefit from playing at home versus on the road? That's another good way to look at it. But if you want to sit here and tell me team prestige, home winning percentage for a team that's 24-20 since jumping into the SEC, what are we doing? That's all I'm going to say. I never want to use the word clickbait because that's not the case, and I don't think it is completely, but if you put some teams like this that are sure to get people talking, people will look at the game and see more eyes on the game. That's the only thing I'm going to say about the list. Let me move into offensive, defensive so I don't just lose my entire head on this situation. And also, Texas A&M fans, you're probably not watching the channel, but if you are, I apologize. It's nothing against you. It's just the fact that you're not the number one toughest place to play. I'm sure even you guys agree to an extent. Now, the top 25, I'm not going to read the top 25, just teams that catch my eye in terms of the top 25 offenses in college football. I don't want to sit here and say K-State should be on every single list. That's probably a little bit unfair of me. However, offensively, this team should have been featured. You look at the roster. They weren't featured in the top 25 offenses in college football, yet they did make it on the defensive side of the ball. We'll talk about defense in a sec, but rapid fire here. Georgia number 1, Oregon number 2, Alabama 3, Texas 4, Ohio State 5. I had Ohio State as the number 1 offense in all of college football. I still do. They're an 89 overall, while Georgia and Oregon are 94. I thought number 1 and number 2 were Ohio State, Oregon. Then I'd put Georgia 3. Are we giving Texas the benefit of the doubt at this point? Sure. But Colorado being listed at 89 is incorrect. You have 2 incredible players in Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter missed a chunk of time last year. If they're both perfectly healthy, it can be a good offense. But tied for the 5th best offense, tied with Ohio State. If you're sitting here and saying, which offense would you rather have, Ohio State or Colorado? Find me one person outside of the Sanders family or any Colorado fan that'll say Colorado. I beg you to find someone that says I would rather have Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter over Will Howard and the 8,000 first-round NFL draft picks they have at every single skill position. The best wide receiver in college football. 2 of the best running backs in college football. That's a team right there that's listed at 89. Colorado as well. That's crazy. They had the worst offensive line in football the last couple seasons. Moving on to the specific Big 12 stuff here. You've got Arizona, Kansas at 87, Utah at 87, and then UCF at 85. Those are your Big 12 teams, and I spoke about this on a recent podcast appearance with my guy Brian Clinton over at Heartland College Sports. I think the biggest part of this is that teams with young quarterbacks are really suffering. Oklahoma is the best example of this. Do I think they're an incredible 90 overall team? I don't. But an 83 feels very, very low considering their receiver room, considering their running back room and their offensive production. Their offensive line has got studs on it. They've got some really great high school prospects as well as portal guys. But I look at Oklahoma's offense and it says, what do you have Jackson Dart ranked as? This is where K-State struggles as well. What do you have Avery Johnson ranked as? What do you have Tennessee, who doesn't even show up on the offensive list? What do you have Nico listed as? These young quarterbacks that are stepping into a bigger role, I think got no love from EA Sports. Because you look at the Wildcats and you say Kansas State will have an unbelievable offense, one of the best rushing attacks in the nation, as well as incredible skill positions, a great offensive line. They will be really, really solid on that side of the ball. To me, our team screams our offense will be a little bit better than our defense. I'm not saying our defense is bad or anything like that, but I look at Kansas State and I say the better part of this team is the offense. You look at Avery Johnson, you look at Dylan Edwards, you look at DJ Giddens, you see Garrett Oakley, Jace Brown, Dante Cephas. You've got receivers out the wazoo that'll be studs. And I think they're a lot deeper than they were last year. They really were. Maybe there's not as much top-end talent in certain areas, but I think there might even be even more. Avery Johnson gets an open space, he's gone. He can throw the ball anywhere on the football field. Dylan Edwards, kid runs a 4.3. DJ Giddens is one of the best running backs in football. That team is deserving to be in the top 25 offensive list. Now, moving to the defensive list, we saw the one lone mention of Kansas State, and they have us at an 84 overall. I don't hate that. I'm not going to disagree and say we should be higher. I think that's a pretty adequate rating. I would even say, if they had us at an 83, I'd understand that too. They've got some studs over there. Des Purnell, I've said it, I'm going to be the best player in all of college football with Des Purnell as my user at middle linebacker. You'll see some footage on the channel. You'll see the work come together. But I look at that list and it's, okay, K-State, they're saying, is a more defensive-heavy team than they are an offensive-heavy team. That doesn't really compute to me. I think they're probably even, if not the offense, slightly better than the defense. So that's kind of interesting to see what their offensive side of the ball will be. And then no K-State in the top 25 teams in the country. The list rounds out with Iowa at 25 as an 87 overall. Kansas is an 87 overall. Arizona 87. Oklahoma State 87. If you look at the top 25 teams here, you have the team that will be picked to win the Big 12 or second to Utah. So on this list, you don't have them anywhere. This is a team that can easily win the Big 12 and go to a college football playoff. You have 5 teams from the Big 12. The one that I'll listen to the argument for that's better than Kansas State would be Utah. I don't agree. I think K-State will be a better team than Utah, and I think Utah will struggle more than people are leading on. Utah is listed as an 88 overall. Then you have Colorado, Kansas, Arizona, and Oklahoma State all at an 87 overall. Colorado might not get to bowl eligibility. They're an 87 overall. But I get it. It's the Coach Prime aspect. More people are going to play with Colorado than probably any team in the country, just loading up the game, and that's probably the truth. But to sit there and say the team that is favored to win the Big 12 Conference on most major sports books isn't a top 25 team or isn't better than Kansas, Arizona, Colorado, Oklahoma State, you're just wrong. You're just wrong about that. EA Sports did not do their due diligence with this. But I'm not going to sit here and just scream into the void. I think it's important to note that they said, hey, this will be updated, and it'll fluctuate throughout the season. That's true. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't want them to change this before the season starts. I don't want to see K-State as the 10th team. I want to now prove them wrong 4 games in saying, oh, crap, Kansas State's averaging 45 points per game at home. That's a real big deal. We should have paid better attention to that. I want them to realize the error of their ways as the season gets started. So no, I'm not going to be calling for some crazy change before the season starts. I want them to see it for themselves. I want to see Avery Johnson's number because they're going to be incredibly low because it's the way that they did it with all young quarterbacks. Avery Johnson's probably going to start the season maybe at an 80. I mean, realistically, I don't think that's true. I think the kid's a superstar. But the way that they're viewing this list, they're going to say, Avery, you're a 78. Avery, you're a 79. And then shortly after, maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks into the season, okay, this kid's an 85. Where did we go wrong? This team is all of a sudden now ranked, the 15th best team in college football. It's crazy that they weren't in our top 25. I want it to be a situation where they look at this and say, we screwed up. That's on us. We'll learn better next time. That's all I can say about these lists. They're not very good. And I don't want to sit here and say that no work was put into it or like nobody cared about it or anything like that. But the point of all of what I'm saying is just that sometimes people watch all of college football and they still don't know ball. Not saying EA Sports didn't have a huge crew that did this or whatever the case is, but at some point you look at the production loss versus production gained. Kansas State has a net positive with better players coming into Manhattan than they lost last season. And I get if you want to listen to the argument of, okay, Avery's probably a young quarterback. They might not give him much love. The kid has top 10 odds to win the Heisman. That should not be the reason this team is getting sucked down. Maybe that means they completely disrespected the offensive line or the skill position isn't very good for some reason. Maybe it just means that they hate Kansas State. It is what it is. But yeah, I just wanted to give my thoughts on this because I think it's a ridiculous thing. And it's not about Kansas State being disrespected that the team is, that's what validates why the list is bad. It's the fact that you have a team in Colorado that is probably going to win 5 games this season listed as an 87 overall, with a top 15 offense in the country and a top 20 defense in the country after being historically one of the worst defenses in college football history. That will all change. I'm not going to try to be that guy that says it can't happen or anything like this. It is wishful thinking at best for EA Sports to see the way these lists are laid out. But that's going to do it for today's video. I just wanted to rant a little bit and tell you guys my thoughts on that. You will see me whipping dudes with Kansas State on EA Sports College Football. And that's the basis of this. Now I know that they're not overpowered. They're not a 92 overall as the season starts. They're not on that list of, okay, don't touch them. That's unfair to play with them, that team. You can't do that. Kansas State will start the season probably around at 84, 85. And I'm going to be tossing dudes off the sticks that way. That's all I'm going to say. But guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I hope all of you are doing well. Please enjoy your 4th of July. Once again, be safe, be sound, be healthy. Drink some water and enjoy it. Wear some sunblock. But I will talk to you guys here soon. Go Cats.